broke into motion. Two for Terrence Malick. One. Mouth twitching with age, he dropped spittle onto the ground, which she kneaded with earth that was there, fashioned a worm shaped like a spear. Two. A sigh across the earth, 4 eyes, 6 feet, one tail. Thus they travel up from the south, plying on waves, a sigh over the deep. The Indian dressed in buckskin, beaded and ornamented with feathers, river map on his chest, his pathfinding horse wrapped in a blanket of bright colors. He sits high in the saddle, and with his arrow takes aim, standing to arms. The wounds shine more brightly than the body. Dawn his head, sun his eye, air his belly, sky his forepart, earth his hind part, the clouds his lungs, the stars his bones, ether his blood. His urine purifies the waters, waves. Now he stands rigid, coiled inside a serpent.
Hi, my name is John Beer, and I'm going to read um, part of a poem called Sound of Water Over a Rock. It is the first poem in this book, The Wasteland and Other Poems, and it is about the sound of water over a rock. It's a little long, so I'll just read the beginning of it. Drip, 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 drop. Drip, drop, drop, drip, drop, drop, drop. Drop, drip, 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 drop, drip. Drip, 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 drop, drip, drop, drip. Drop, 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 drip, drop, drip, drop. Drop, 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 drip, drop, drop, drip. Drip, drip, drop, drop, drip, drip, drop. Drop, drop, drip, drip, drop, drop, drop. Drop, drip, drop, 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 drip, drop. Drip, drop, drop, drip, drop, drop, drip. Drop, drop, drip, drip, drop, drop, drip. Drop, drip, drop, drop, drip, drip, drop. Drip, drop, drip, drop, drip, drip, drip. Drop, drip, drop, drip, 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 drop. Drop, drip, drop, drip, drop, drip, drop. Drop, drip, drip, drop, drop, drip, drip. Drip, drop, drip, drop, 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 drop. Drip, drop, drip, drop, drop, drip, drip. Drop, 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 drip, drip. Drip, drip, drop, drip, drop, drip, drop. Drop, 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 drip, drip, drop, drip. Drip, 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 drop, drip, drip, drip. Drop, drop, drip, drip, drop, drip, drip. Drop, 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 drip, drip, drop, drop. It goes on from there, but I'll stop now.
Greetings, my name is Miranda Beeson, a poet, prof at Stony Brook University and friend of Terese Svoboda's. And I'm so pleased to be here with Terese and Elizabeth Howard, celebrating National Poetry Month, my favorite month of the year, of course, being a poet. I'm going to read a sonnet that was published a couple of years ago in a literary journal, Badlands Out West. It takes place here in Cutchogue, in the North Fork of Long Island, where I happen to be reading this poem on this very day. Addresses the theme of migration. And as an FYI, the title references the latitude and the longitude of Cutchogue. So here we go. Cutchogue, April 1, 41.0107 degrees north, 72.481 degrees west. The fishhawk is back, surveying his nest from his usual perch, an edifice of twigs, twisted seagrass, popped rainbow birthday balloons, a red shred of t-shirt, the glitter of tinfoil from picnics on the beach, the detritus of man. Soon his mate will arrive from the tip of a peninsula in French Guiana, squeezing the Earth's magnetic field for signs pointing north over the Caribbean to Hispaniola, Cuba, riding the thermals 2,700 miles home. Somewhere on the Aegean between Turkey and Greece, citizens are squeezed together in zodiacs that know nothing of stars. They huddle under the weight of waterlogged life jackets and fear. A tiny motor sputtering its way toward unfamiliar lights over a sea of broken paddles, backpacks, glittering lost cities. Thank you very much. I'm so pleased to be joining this conversation, and I will be seeing you on April 14th. Many, many thanks. Okay, signing off. Bye.
I am Nicholas Birns, and I am going to read The Need of Being Versed in Country Things by Robert Frost. This is a poem about loss. This is a poem that asks the question, can non-human actors feel or express loss? Can animals feel loss? Can trees feel loss? Can places manifest loss? How is that different from the loss experienced by people with subjectivities? In this time of great loss, Frost's poem, although it was not written as a parable or allegory of loss, he was simply writing about the country things he knew, speaks to our condition of loss. The need of being versed in country things. The house had gone to bring again to the midnight sky a sunset glow. Now the chimney was all of the house that stood, like a pistol after the petals go. The barn opposed across the way that would have joined the house in flames had it been the will of the wind, was left to bear forsaken the place's name. No more open with all one end for teams that came by the stony road to draw on the floor of scurrying hoofs and brush the mow with the summer load. The birds that came to it through the air at broken windows flew out and in, their murmur more like the sigh we sigh from too much dwelling on what has been. Yet for them the lilac renewed its leaf, and the aged elm, though touched with fire, and the dry pump flung up an awkward arm, and the fence post carried a strand of wire. For them there was nothing really sad, but though they rejoiced in the nest they kept, one had to be versed in country things, not to believe the Phoebes wept.
Hello, I am Kate Donahue, a poet who lives in central New Hampshire. The poem I'm going to read is one of many I have written for a memoir about my adoption, searches, and reunion. At one point in that process, I learned that my birth mother's family were farmers, and I had embarked on a summer job as a field hand at a local produce and dairy farm. This work in the fields really strengthened my identity of where I came from and who I am. Inheritance. It was a call of ancestors. These relentless, unyielding ghosts pushed me forward to the farm, its fields and soil, furrows and crops. And I went. I drove the farm pickup we named Bessie Blue through tilled loam, a rich mix composted from 2 large zucchinis yanked and flung off the vine, then churned with soft dirt, raised into mounds, stretching east to west along the torso of land, newly fertile, waiting for transplants of squash, cucumbers, beets. I serpentined greenhouse aisles, learned the anatomy of grafted tomatoes, suckered, then clipped onto strings. A blush of ripeness glowed on their round red bellies, dusted in a veneer of yellow pollen. I knelt in deep mud after rain and in rain, coursing along spines of pea plants. I rubbed elbows with shadows of uncles, cousins, grandsires, parents, as I picked handfuls of beans curved like green question marks. With the noon sun at my neck, my arms turning brown and rounded as the earth, and my hands rooted into each day, harvesting their legacy, I traced the marrow of family genes and thanked these gardens that welcomed the spirits of my heritage.
Hello, my name is Jamahl Dunkle, and I'll be reading On Seeing the Red Bird Off the Coast of Argentina aboard the Dirigo 1912. This is from my newest collection, Westfire Archive, which I wrote in conversation with the archives of Charmian Kittredge London's life. Charmian Kittredge London was Jack London's wife, and she was also a writer. And I've spent the last 6 years writing her biography, both in a lyric form and also in a prose biography. This poem is written off of her diaries that she wrote aboard the Dirigo, which was a 3-masted schooner that went from Baltimore around Cape Horn to Seattle. On Seeing the Red Bird Off the Coast of Argentina. In the time between and the time after, the air moved like a pampero, cold breath covering everything. They shortened sails, readied for whatever futures might blow in. First were the mosquitoes, those small machines of fury clouding their heads, no room free of them. Then the wasps came, war of sickle and sting. They took shelter below deck, but couldn't parry their assault. Pale moon gasping on water. That's why when the red Argentinian bird appeared, no one had words to speak, relief, or there must be land close by, or after the squall opens the powdery resolution of stars. Thank you.
My name is Vivian Eyre, and my poem is entitled Ode to the Cold, Stunned Sea Turtle. Let me tell you a little bit how this poem started. I'm a volunteer for the New York Marine Rescue Center, and in late autumn, we volunteers walk on the beaches on eastern Long Island to find sea turtles that have washed ashore cold stunned because they've frozen in the decreasing water temperature. So here we go. Ode to the cold stunned sea turtle. Your tear-shaped body frozen in seaweed's tangled knots. Where in these nets, this light, this tide, can I find you? Once you knew how to nose out of the birth egg's hide, with moonlight and stars, your signs, to shimmy the downslope into the open blue. Your body all wobble, your flippers quick slapped the undersea, a frantic rush to cross the salty vastness. Why this change now? All your senses trusting the way it's always been? How soundly you slept in that blind-stitched sea pocket, missed the cue, the water's slow cooling. Yes, the sea changes around us, changes us in ways we barely detect. I hope this isn't true. The only way I see how much the sea has changed is by losing you.
Hi, I'm Cheryl Galipter, and I live in Brooklyn. I've been to Randall's Island a bunch of times over the years, the most exciting time being the 2011 Quidditch World Cup. The poem I'm going to read today is called Heart Song. It's quiet and it's mellow, and nowhere near a shout. A gentle whispered melody that's yearning to come out. At first, one tiny sound escapes, a feather on a drum, but no one turns to listen to the mournful tune you hum. You close your eyes and concentrate, and focus from within. And suddenly the people look and hear your song begin. Emotions rise, your face grows warm, your heart begins to pound. The crowd stands by and listens to your heart's most secret sound. It takes your strength to get it out, what was so long repressed. But after this, your heart can bow and take a needed rest.
Hello, my name is Regan Good. I'm going to read a poem in honor of National Poetry Month, the cruelest month, as we know. It is from a book called The Atlantic House, and it's not as religious as it seems. Religious in one way, not religious in another. The poem is called I Looked Beyond the Gates and Wished to Enter In. This cold spring, snow in April tide, snow encasing buds in ice, small white rosebuds cut sharply by the maker's knife. Salt nourishes the climbing rose. Consequently, roses grow wildly by the sea. Twice the gate was locked, though I wished to enter in. The tunnel was wet to wade, and thousands of petals fell all night past the goldfish frozen in the lily pond, the gilded statues with their good luck parts rubbed black. 3 times I threw my mind down the littered walk. As petals fell, dogwoods all from where I stood. 1 mark for the crown of thorns, 2 for each hand, and 1 for the long nail driven deep into his overlapping feet. No more the Son of God than I, my face raised to what was being driven down. 3 times I knocked, but only once I entered in, to move through that slanted rain of white, to taste the blood of my Lord Jesus Christ. Thank you and enjoy this beautiful spring.
My name is Kimiko Hahn, and I'll be reading a series of very short poems inspired by Japanese tanka. In the sunny meadow without dew, the thrush calls, "What?" though the mockingbird recalls, "Why?" The bees are always eating, or if they do something else, I don't notice, like when the children were small. For myself, these pressed meadow blossoms, if only to recall the names Mother taught us girls, will I? All summer, my daughters stay out late, so I see them less and less, but hold them more, it seems. The daughter phones from camp where calls are not permitted. She calls because I miss her. Soon the pear in the orchard will fall and rot, then take root. What nature teaches us about mothers every day. A butterfly in the milkweed, a bat whisking the pond. Sweet dreams, my beloved. Happy National Poetry Month.
Hi, my name is Virginia Konchan, and I'm the author of 2 poetry collections, Any God Will Do and The End of Spectacle. I'm honored to participate in tonight's poetry reading for the Randall Island Poetry Reading for National Poetry Month, and thank you to Terese and to Elizabeth for inviting me. I'm going to read one poem tonight called Les Années de Guerre. It's a French title, which in English means the years of war or the war years. It's the title of a book by my friend Samuel Mercier in Quebec, which I translated into English a couple years ago. His book is more concerned with post-9/11 geopolitics, and I borrowed the title to write a poem more about domestic and personal and also Judeo-Christian relationships and politics. Les Années de Guerre. The past, yes, the past. Who was I then? My inner voice is getting kinder, but it's in enemy territory, the dueling body and mind. Life is poignant and cruel. Why are you staring at me? I'm not a clock, digital or analog. I'm a marsupial born in water, walked over by Jesus in Galilee. But who's counting his awesome miracles? I was happy peeling potatoes in the army, happy with my ration of butter and bread. Dramatis personae, all rise. Court is now in session, presided over by Your Honor in deed and name. Time is the essence of money, which is why I fail at both. Depth over breadth is the gospel I hiss infelicitously to the world. The thought you have after the thought you lose is the saddest thought ever. And yet hope is the thing with feathers that perches atop the combat vehicle. Who reminds repetition of repetition? What is the antidote to territorialism, binding men to evil like glue? Me, I reject all domestic certainties. I've never wanted to be anywhere but here, in the still pool of total war, caught in the crosshairs with you. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Anne-Marie Macari, and I'm reading a poem from my new book, Heaven Beneath. The poem is called Florida, and it's about a time a number of years ago that I went to visit my parents in Florida, and my father was not doing well. He stopped walking, and it interweaves my experience of going to the Everglades and thinking about the devastation of our natural environment and my father's physical devastations. Florida. sharp sawgrass for miles, pockets of willow, and in the shallows, ibis and heron wading gluey water. Finally, I'm really breathing. First time since the day you stopped walking, sitting in your blue robe, cashmere throw tucked over your legs, our only mantra, body, body, body. Someone pricking your finger for blood, studying your swollen feet, asking you, what year, what month? Beneath the surface, rot bubbles up through rain-soaked muck. All this water on the move, filtered through algae, unending sedge. Shouldn't I have wondered, soul, when you looked at me confused, haloed by your milk hair? I want to travel with you through the endangered landscape into the haunted reeds, alarmed flocks against the light, the wild scattering.
Hi, I'm Caits Meissner, and I'm so happy to be here. In honor of spring, I'm going to read a poem from my 2016 book, Let It Die Hungry, and I'm going to take us back to a world we all remember not too far in the past, the New York City subway. This is called 59th Street on the 1 train, 2015. The train car is packed to its teeth, crawling on its long belly. We know it's wrong, but compare it to desert combat, unbearable heat rising from thick perfumed bodies, sweating the pressure of shared air. We are known for our camaraderie in black clouds, black coats, black coffee, our complaints. I am drinking brown bodega water, trying not to spill it onto the bald head below me. I'm trying to think of someone less fortunate than myself, but cannot come up with anyone so unlucky as me today on the face of this blemished earth. No, this morning, I am trying not to kill anybody or be killed. Second stop, a gaggle of teenagers board. Lanky bodies a goose step wide to keep pants from ankles, shooting off siren mouths, mouths fit for a scrubbing if you ask most mamas, and God, are they calling all the attention to themselves. Teenagers can be so forgettable in their sameness, so boring in their striving towards cool. The ringleader is Dominican tomboy fly, coated in a swag team sweatshirt, do-rag wrapped under flat brim baggy jeans. I admire her Elmo boxers. I usually love kids like these, when their voices spill out, breaking open over a poem in my classroom, where they forget how to define their own shape for just a moment and expand. But today, I am not interested in their rigidity or lack of it. I am wishing for a cover to dive back under, or a knife to slash through this crowd and carve out my own throne. It is my 7th stop, which I know because I am counting, holding my breath. I am a wasp suspending his wings mid-tornado. I am dying slowly. I'm thinking the city is finally doing me in. I'm writing my obituary while wondering how many pennies it would take to buy a house deep in the woods somewhere where I could live life in pajamas and give up the human race instead of just offing myself. When a white woman well past middle age sneaks by the kids towards an open seat. Cropped gray hair and a bright orange scarf, it's the kind of face I'd be happy to grow into should the world have me for a longer spell than I am currently barreling toward on this train. And the girls turn too, drawn to the strange, trickless magician with her funky brooch. They say hello, and though not cruel, they do not smooth the edges, still bouncing on the volcano's crater of curses, still boiling hot. The woman, she reads the sweatshirt aloud, holds it in her mouth like soft bread. There is a 4 where the A should be in swag. What does it mean, she asks. The ringleader's decision is quick, but I see it. She is searching for the greatest coin of shock, coils back as if switching on a ghastly mask, as if to say, I am the scariest thing coming, and if you want to go, I'm ready. Puffing up her chest like a comic hero, it comes out curt, a pop balloon, it mean I'm gay. and the collective breath draws close. I'm waiting for the woman's response because, though I am sure she's not dangerous, I know this girl has been collecting hate in a paper bag, ready to swing for the piñata head of whatever ignorance is sitting on a ready lip, and who could blame her? I've got my own bag. I'm suddenly protective of these kids, want to pull them close. And even though we are nearly riding through Chelsea and then Christopher Street, and even though our city has a parade every year that stops traffic with its proclamation of love across bodies and kink and colors, there is still a record number of homicides in 2015 for these kind of people, my kind of people. And now I see her. I see the facade that is safety, that is I'll fuck with you before you fuck with me. And then suddenly a light cuts through the car. It comes in like a sucker punch of breathable air, comes in like spring. Me too, says the woman. And they fist bump. The questions fire between street slang and buttoned up speech. Really? You got a girlfriend? She has a wife. Shows off the wedding ring. So like, is your wife butcher femme? A little bit of both, too old to call it anything. The woman looks at me, winks, sees the thawing of my spirit. I realize I am sitting. The train has emptied. A possibility has been unfolding like a tiny ballerina in my palm, and easy as that, the world again is green. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Dean Rader, and it is a great privilege to be able to read and say a few words about a poem of mine for Randall's Island. My poem is called America, I Do Not Call Your Name Without Hope. It's from my 2017 book, Self-Portrait as Wikipedia entry, published by Copper Canyon. I steal my title from a Pablo Neruda poem. His poem in Spanish is America, no invoco tu nombre en vano. I do not take your name in vain, but it's commonly translated, I do not call your name without hope. He, of course, wrote his about Latin America, and he was responding to dictatorial regimes and fascist policies he found antithetical to the project of poetry. I wrote my poem in response to the murders of Eric Garner and Michael Brown, and I was really concerned about raising two young boys in America, given our country's horrendous history with race. And so I think this is in some ways a parenting poem that was clearly also a sort of anti-colonial poem. It was published in the San Francisco Chronicle a couple of days after the 2016 presidential election, and has since appeared in various anti-Trump anthologies and other publications and journals that gathered writing in response to the last dictatorial regime. And though, of course, I didn't really intend for it to be about the past administration, I think that it has come to be seen as, again, like Neruda's, a poem that sort of stands up to authoritarian and fascist policies. I want to read this poem today in honor of those killed over the last 3 weeks by the mass shootings in our country. And I just don't know how I feel about that in terms of whether I'm hopeful or not. America, I do not call your name without hope, after Neruda. America, I do not call your name without hope, not even when you lay your knife against my throat or lace my hands behind my back. The cuffs connecting us like two outlaws trying to escape history's white horse. Its heavy whip, a pistol shot in the ear. Lost land, this is a song for the scars on your back, for your blistered feet and beautiful watch. It is for your windmills, your magic machines, for your fists. It is for your wagon of blood, for your dogs and their teeth of fire, for your sons and the smoke in their hearts. This is for your verbs, your long lurk, your whir. This is for you and your fear, your tar, for the white heat in your skin, and for your blue bones that one day may sing. This is for your singing. This is for the past, but not for what's past. This is for daybreak and backbreak, for dreams and for darkness. This song is not for your fight, but it is a song for fighting. It is a song of flame, but not for burning. It is a song out of breath, but a plea for breathing. It is the song I will sing when you knock on my door, my son's name in your mouth.
Hello, I'm Grace Schulman, and I'd like to read a poem from my newest book, The Marble Bed. Here it is. This poem was written at the beginning of the pandemic. Many people speak of the recent catastrophes of the past as being a prediction of the world's end. Well, I can't take that in. The world's end is too much for me. But looking out my window, I could imagine seeing the empty streets. I could well imagine the world without its people. And that's what started me on this poem. It's called Gone. Washington Square, 2020. I live in an apartment over Washington Square Park. From my window, I see a world without us in it. A vacant park, a silver maple sheltering no reader, a cherry tree dressed like a bride betrayed, her wedding canceled, a dogwood tree whose whites will fall without regretful eyes, no baby strollers, no candy wrappers stuffed in bins, just a sign, no bicycles, and memories of skateboard pirouettes. Around us, death. The numbers spin the mind. Fever dreams. The last breath held alone. I had not known death had undone so many. This park reminds us it was once a field for the unclaimed dead of galloping yellow fever. Construction workers dug up skeletons that had lain for years beneath our footsteps. Death in the hanging elm, a rooted gallows. Now the clear air, pollution-free, is poison for walkers, while trees stand stern, immune. Sad paradox. For comfort, I recall Camille Pissarro would have lingered here. He painted Paris gardens from a window, having left his island's sprawling shores for tighter scenes. He gazed at people, matchsticks from above, in ones and twos. Below, the park's unlittered paths are mute. But wait. Just now, a mournful, prayerful sax, unseen from somewhere, unlooses notes, calls me to the window, and I hear the sounds I can't imagine days without. I'll read another poem from this book, also from this book. It's called Because. Because in a wounded universe, the tufts of grass still glisten. The first daffodil shoots up through ice melt, and a red-tailed hawk perches on a cathedral spire. And because children toss a fire-red ball in the yard where a schoolhouse facade was scarred by vandals, and joggers still circle a dry reservoir. because a rainbow flaunts its painted ribbons and slips them somewhere underneath the earth. Because in a smoky bar, the trombone blares louder than street sirens. Because those who can no longer speak of pain are singing. And when, on this wide meadow in the park, a full moon still outshines the city lights, and on returning home below the North Star, I see new bricks and glass where the towers fell, and I remember my love's calloused hand soften in my hand, while crab apple blossoms showered our laps, and a yellow rose opened with its satellites of orange buds. Because I cannot lose the injured world without losing the world, I'll have to praise it. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Jane Seskin, and I'm going to read from my book, Older, Wiser, Shorter. The poem I'm going to read tonight is Meditation. I inhale jazz piano as my spiritual practice, with Jarrett, Monk, and Peterson, the teachers, who play time out for heart and ego as petty irritations are deleted, critical voices stilled, and in this 20-minute pause where I am silent, the music enters my soul and irons my life. Thank you.
Hi everyone, this is Julie Sheehan, delighted to contribute to this project. The poem I'm going to read is in the voice of a sea bass, which used to be plentiful in the waters off Randall's Island in Long Island. It's called Extinction Song. I swam the red tide, pimiento sauce. Combine the ingredients and beat vigorously. Now that I'm trawled, my once brisk ardor diffuses like saffron, red threads in yellow rice. Greetings from the deep paella pan, brothers, sisters, epicures, and baymen. Tell me I'm not finished. Even so, the expediter waves me on, a sprig of green and side of cauliflower, a broken body baked in salt, as fired and cooked as any snapper after the crashing cod. I tried to pray. I tried to calculate. Mindfully, I counted every breath. But algae bloomed, the red tide washed ashore.
Hello, I'm Neil Shepard. I live half the year in northern Vermont and half in Manhattan. I've written many nature poems after Vermont's long winters that celebrate the spring, but today I thought I'd read the first spring poem I ever wrote about the city. Spring poem, New York City. 5 years in this city, and I haven't written a spring poem. I need to learn how to put a passing cloud inside the steel and glass of a midtown high-rise. Put a blooming tulip tree beside the downtown doorman with his long-stemmed dustpan and brush, scooping up fallen petals along with the dog's business on the sidewalk. Put the man with the leaf blower, hey buddy, it's just spring, beside the house sparrow with its beak caught in a grate. Put car exhaust with the leaves that will recycle it. My mind needs to bloom new relations. The park raccoon and his country cousin, the dumpster seagull and his seacoast double. For every farmer's daughter I celebrate in the hay, there's a woman in furs clacking down Broadway with 9-inch heels who is her own pedestal. Oh, what shall I do with this city's profusion? Come to think of it, spring's like that. The tulips abundant, unstable, unstoppable, cherry blossoms making me forget what I was thinking. I was thinking the Hudson really is a magnificent ocean, channeled all the way to Poughkeepsie. All that sparkle and salt mixed with something smelling of bedrolls and clothes slept in for months. I was thinking all that piney solitude I had in Vermont, traded for a city heavy on irony, denaturing nature as that old broad or God we haven't the leisure or need or magical thinking to long for. Suddenly, over the horn honk in gridlock, over sirens of fire and emergency, comes the obliterating rumble of thunder, the cloud burst held in a fisted nimbus from, of all places I thought I'd never utter, New Jersey, that land so fertile, so full of spring, we loved it to death.
I'd like to credit the image in the background that I'm using. It's called Little Ven Pirouettes in Blue by Michael Schulteis. And the poem I'm going to read is called Who? Who then sweeps them loose? Who diffuses broken, shining bits? The far-flung force washed to foam on a rock face, succulence, and whelks alive inside its raising spray. Who slings the broth aside in cups of ocean swell? Whose bolt of lace? A great spill of it, blowing in the window with her pins, patterns the firmament, patterns the phosphorescent body of an eel, making slip knots in the dark sea. Patterns fireflies, sailing through grass at the edge of a wood, lit and unlit at twilight, giving body to the air, or to some brimming being whose, who.
Hello, I'm Jerl Surratt, and I'd like to thank the Randall's Island Park Alliance and its literary program for giving me the opportunity to participate in today's celebration of National Poetry Month. I grew up in Texas and New York City and now live upstate in Hudson, New York. But I'm going to read a city poem, so more about human nature, although the moon does play a supporting role in it. It's called First Date on a Blue Moon, and it was first published in the Hopkins Review. Home from a movie, then drinks. I'd oiled my hands after scrubbing them good. Now, as I try to type, my fingertips are slipping across these keypads and tipping sideways into valleys. The sensations as my fingers recover from this remind me how it felt earlier tonight when you pulled out of our hug. My hands not letting go a few seconds too long, fingers stuck to the shallow spaces between the jointed bones sheathed in your shirt, bleached white by the blue moon. And it felt as if the moon, now set, we parted under, had shown me how to take that liberty, not common among men new to each other. Set, but somewhere else still bright, like the face of this screen, and seeming from that place to be guiding me toward the right words here. An unlikely prospect I can't rule out, but if sober, probably would. Given how many mistakes the machine I'm the heart of has made, how long it's taken to write with such a clumsy touch, any world that doesn't have as its point my being with you again. That's not my world. Thank you.
I'm Terese Svoboda, and I will read two poems. The first one from my newly reissued book, Treason, that I published, I think, in 2002, and it's out with Double Take, I guess last November. Land's Cape. Think water, its diamonds on the brink of sinking, a pleasure boat, pleasure painted, ital, mid-hull. A cold glass thrust up to shore, highball at sunset. It's bubbling fast, the short life of ice, the sand with its hilly secrets, a rug of weed thrown over backyard trash, and a spigot of leaves screening what the sun might do to a lettuce plume. And for good measure, here's a poem from my new book, Theatrics, Poetry Plays. HBO's Chernobyl. I want this to scare you. It's an ital, and then a bracket. Your eyes so delicately aspic, watching. Only one on the bridge lives. The dog cringes from the resignation floating grayly down. Brackets, which rhymes with nation. End brackets. Self-interest, a flood of it. The curtains keep fluttering. If the rhino, brackets, not the elephant, end brackets, stalwart in the absurdest room, packed with isotopes, guarded by men full of flesh and blood, withholds catharsis, so be it. Laugh, but someone has to wonder, someone with the I-ams to put out the flames, or the leisure, brackets, no, the terror, end brackets, to compose the bridge 30 years later. The spectators do not yell as if a war, brackets, or even a holiday, beckoned. That cat on the couch, the bird twitchy on the pavement after the school-bound kids chase off-screen. No animal was injured in the making of this media, and no farmer refused to harvest Ukraine's wheat. Knowledge was eaten, bracket, a plume of it, and all the rain there is cannot quench the truth, nor evacuate it. Men imagine this, bracket, and this comes about, end bracket. The brain folds, ask the media.
Happy National Poetry Month. I want to read a poem about leaves coming out on a farm in Massachusetts where I worked. It's called Hardening Off. Blonde mornings stretch, naked sugar flashes. In the trees, 100 shades of microgreen refract tipping frequencies, chlorophyll in bright chartreuses. In the greenhouse, lettuces we've coddled, kale that's germinating purplish gold, our speckled trout, oh tender leggy phloem, explode out, sporting cracked seed husks, toppled helmets. We turn off piped-in electric heat. We march them out to line the open dirt. They wait in flats outside all morning. Cash crop, green army. We entrust them to the season. Weather them and set to digging. Kneel and copy what the trees are even now above us doing. Coax the sugar out of light. Turn the light into the feast of leaving. Thank you.
gaps. There's enormous gaps in your education. There's enormous gaps in my education. There's a plentiful lack of giddy up in your There's a plentiful lack of giddy up in my Swing dancing the most remotest thing to Trumpism, are we? Still swing dancing the most remotest thing to Trumpism, are we? Well, that seems hokey these days to suggest it. Well, that seems hokey these days not to suggest it. Tetherball, in the rain, glasses flying off. The left eye is burning a blurry sight's all sensation. The left eye is burning a blurry sight's not much sensation. Some sensation, all sensation. These centrists, slipstreams to the right. What are we going to do? Play badminton with sectarians? What are we going to do? Play badminton with sectarians? Launch a Twitter war? A slip in the mud is a muddy endeavor. A muddy endeavor is a penny earned. A penny earned is a penny accounted for. Huh? Who said that? The left eye is burning a blurry sight's all sensation. Meanwhile, the left eye is burning a blurry sight's no sensation. Meanwhile, the right eye can see perfectly. Meanwhile, the right eye can discern a way out. The right eye discerns a way out. Out for you. Out for me. Swing dancing the most remotest thing to Trumpism. Of course swing dancing the most remotest thing to Trumpism. As boring as hoarding boredom as you've become. As boring as hoarding boredom as I've become. Got a bolt lock. Got a bolt lock. Got a bolt lock for a heart. No such thing as heart. No heart is such a thing. No such thing as no heart in such a thing. But no such thing as heart. And now you need and seek and beseech one. And now I need and seek and beseech one. No such thing, and no such thing as key, and no such thing as key is what's a heart, is what's a bolt lock. Bolt lock. There's enormous gaps in my education. There's enormous gaps in your education. There's a little wee lack of giddy up in my There's a little wee lack of giddy up in your Swing dancing the most remotest thing to Trumpism, are we? Still swing dancing the most remotest thing to Trumpism, are we? Dull, dim-bowed heart. Dull, dim-bowed heart. Feel. Dull, grim-bowed head. Jackal him and Jill her. You don't suppose they've downright quit the revered art of tetherball. A jab, and a jibe, a jig and a jag, a slip and a slide, a slipping and a raucous in the rain, a slipping and a raucous in the rain. Roll to dig, the key in the mud, half covered in blood, the key if the mud. Say who? Dull, dim-bowed heart. Feel. Dull, dim, bared, hurt. Punch.
I've known rivers. I've known rivers ancient as the world and older than the flow of human blood and human veins. My soul has grown deep like the rivers. I bathed in the Euphrates when dawns were young. I built my hut near the Congo and it lulled me to sleep. I looked upon the Nile and raised the pyramids above it. I heard the singing of the Mississippi when Abe Lincoln went down to New Orleans, and I've seen its muddy bosom turn all golden in the sunset. I've known rivers, ancient, dusky rivers. My soul has grown deep like the rivers.